So it's cool, Kat, but we're going to devote a whole segment to Steve Doocy's new book.
I can do it. I brought my microphone already.
Every night, she's seen by millions of people across the country as one of the brightest stars on the Fox News network, most notably as a regular panelist on The Gutfeld Show. She's a best-selling author and a stand-up comedian who sells out comedy venues from coast to coast.
My husband told me I looked normal once. I cried so hard my fake eyelashes fell off.
Long before she became a Fox News personality, though, Kat Timpf was just a kid from a small town north of Detroit, hoping to find the right pathway to pursue her dreams. That pathway led her to Hillsdale College.
So, just from people at my high school, I remember hearing about it. I liked that obviously it doesn't accept government funding. I like that about Hillsdale. I also like that I got a full tuition scholarship at Hillsdale. I wouldn't have been able to afford to go away to school any other way, but I had an academic scholarship and then the journalism scholarship, and I really liked that there was an opportunity for me to get a scholarship like that, merit-based, so that's how I made that decision.
At Hillsdale, she majored in English and participated in a number of clubs and organizations. She was involved with the debate team, she joined the Chi Omega sorority, and was on the staff at the student newspaper, The Collegian. And it was at Hillsdale where she learned the skills that would make her successful in life, particularly how to write.
I'm a much better writer than I would have been if I think if I would have gone somewhere where I couldn't have gotten that much attention from professors to actually like write a draft of a paper and then go meet with them and have that kind of personal attention. I think what I learned at Hillsdale, I learned a lot at Hillsdale, right? But again, I think that the kind of attention that I had from professors, like you really can't BS your way through Hillsdale, or at least I don't know how you would, because you can't just slip through the cracks. So I think that I learned a lot about how to be a better writer. I learned a lot about having to explain my points of view and back those things up.
As a child, Kat had wanted to be an actress, but she said that plan fell apart because she couldn't sing. At Hillsdale, though, she was able to finally live out the dream to some degree.
I was in exactly one play. I was Mrs. Soames in Our Town. Yeah, and that was great. I love to be getting back on stage.
Assistant director of the Dow journalism program, Maria Servold, graduated from Hillsdale the same year that Kat did, in 2010. The two were roommates in Washington, D.C. one summer and served on the staff of the Hillsdale Collegian together.
So in the summer of 2009, Kat and I both interned in Washington, D.C., and we lived together in the Heritage Foundation building. So we shared a room all summer, and that entailed lots of grocery shopping and hanging out on the weekends. And I always tell people it felt like I had my own personal comedian because she just made me laugh constantly. She, like myself as well, we both benefited from the journalism program and the classes we took here. I think also, it allowed her to sort of further develop, she's very smart, her intellectual abilities, and study a lot of interesting things, which she could then take out into the world.
After graduation, Kat faced a number of challenges. She moved to Los Angeles for a Fox TV internship, after which she found herself homeless and out of money. She discussed how she overcame adversity in her first book, You Can't Joke About That, Why Everything is Funny, Nothing is Sacred, and We're All in This Together, which came out in 2023.
When I was living in LA, I actually had an internship at Fox in LA for a couple months in the summer, and I had a housing stipend through an organization, and then for the final 2 weeks of the internship, the housing stipend ran out, so I was gonna move in with my college boyfriend who I met at Hillsdale, and then 2 weeks later we were gonna break up, and I was gonna move to New York, and I was gonna go to Columbia Journalism School. But then I realized I didn't have $80,000, and I didn't have a plan to have $80,000, so I didn't go. And so I decided to stay in LA and do internships, and I worked in restaurants. Eventually the guy and I broke up. He's actually a great friend of mine now, but we broke up. And I had to move into a horrible apartment in a bad neighborhood. I was struggling financially. Eventually I lost that apartment. There's more details and stuff in my book. So in my book I also write about my emergency ileostomy surgery that I had in 2020. I went to the hospital with like a really bad stomach ache, and I found out I had a bowel perforation. I needed an ostomy bag, and I only had it for 5 weeks, but it was a lot, right? And I remember I was on the phone with my dad when I was recovering from them, and I've since had it reversed, not to brag, but it's all my insides are back in. But I was on the phone with my dad, and he said, you're only 32, what have you not been through? And I said, well, everything that you go through, you're automatically building this connection with other people that go through it too. But then I thought more about it, and I realized I actually wasn't talking about it. A lot of people, most people found out that this happened to me, including people here that I was working with and even on the air with, when my book came out. Because there's just no chill way to have that conversation. So I thought more about it. I'm like, okay, that's all true, but what's the use if we can't talk about those things, right? So I thought about how many times I've been true in my life, whether when my mom died when I was 26, or any of the things that I went through that were tough, how weird people started acting around me. So in addition to being devastated by something, I also felt isolated by it. And then how much humor helped me get through those things. And the more research I did, the more I found out that a lot of people actually felt the way that I did when it came to all different kinds of trauma and all different kinds of tragedies. So I wanted to write a book that would also be fun to read. So it's a mix of, research and then also a lot of deeply personal stories about my life. I found that the one thing that really helped me was getting on stage and telling jokes about my dumpster fire life actually gave me a sense of power over the things that were making me feel powerless. And it also provided me with a sense of community with other humans because I didn't really know anybody all that well. So I really got into it because I felt like I needed it. And I think that that's been a guiding principle for me throughout my life of the healing power of humor. That's what my book is about. And I think that it's something that people don't talk about enough. Because I think the dark subjects, people say you shouldn't joke about those subjects, but for me, if I couldn't have in my own life, then I don't think I would have gotten through those things.
Welcome back. Greg's dead. I'm Kat.
I don't know why everybody's so pissed off about gas stoves when we should all be eating raw kale for every meal anyway, right? Oh, check this out. I'm Deborah, and America is my world.
Kat's path to Fox News in New York City began after she left Los Angeles and took some internships writing for publications in Washington, D.C., including Campus Reform, a conservative publication that focuses on higher education.
Well, Campus Reform is what got me noticed by Fox News. Some of the things I was doing for Campus Reform, I started getting emails from Fox and Friends, bookers, saying, hey, we want someone in New York for this segment. After they'd interviewed me a few times about Campus Reform things, they started wanting to have me on for other segments. They'd be like, are you in New York? And I'd say yes, but I wasn't. I lived in DC, so I'd take the bus overnight here. And that's how I started getting on. And then I met Greg, and then the rest is kind of history there.
After that, it didn't take long for Kat to become one of the brightest personalities of Fox News, living the New York City life she'd been dreaming of since childhood and her days at Hillsdale College.
No such thing as a typical day in my life. I get up, I write jokes for Greg every morning, and then we have a writer's meeting at 2:30. We get the rundown, the list of topics for the show. I try to write something for every single topic, but we also, some of it has to be off the cuff because you never know where the show's gonna end up going. But then also I'll do segments for other shows sometimes. Sometimes there'll be bits that I'll have to film. So every day is a little bit different, but those are the things that are pretty much the same.
I think if you had said to Kat, 15 years ago that she would be a Fox News personality, she might have sort of laughed at you, but then seeing what she does day to day, it's, it is who she is. She's smart, she's taking the issues and sort of turning them around and looking at them in a clever way. She's entertaining people. So in that sense, I don't think she'd be surprised.
Kat still keeps in touch with a number of friends and professors from Hillsdale, including history professor Brad Berzer.
Dr. Berzer was my professor there as well, and he was a really very, very nice guy. We still do keep in touch a little bit. And he was a bit of a brutal editor. But that's served me very well now, for sure.
It wasn't an easy subway ride to get here, but a lot of hard work, talent, and perseverance have taken Kat Timpf to the Hilltop. Through it all, she continues to think back on her days at Hillsdale College.
The fact that I did get a full scholarship from Hillsdale, and the fact that I did get all these opportunities from Hillsdale, it showed me that these people had actually invested in me that didn't even know me. So I actually very much did, even as a young person, feel a responsibility to not make them feel like they made the wrong decision by having invested in me. So I definitely thought about that. I definitely thought about that many times, that these people invested in me, this college invested in me, and that made me feel good, but also made me feel a responsibility, for sure.
I think they'd all say that you paid them back.
I mean, it was really touch and go there for a few years. I'm very, very grateful, for sure.